So hello, we're here today with Jack Connor, who has the most fascinating backdrop I have seen thus far, and is going to talk all about his books.
My wife loves what I've done with the china cabinet, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure that went over well. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on at the moment.
Well, I've just finished my epic science fiction fantasy series, The Atomic Sea,
Uh-huh.
and so I'm doing this publicity blitz, trying to get the word out about this finished series,
Yeah.
and so that's the main thing that I want to talk about. However, of course, I'm always working on new projects, and my next novel is a horror novel that's a spin-off of my series, The Living Night, which is a
Okay.
epic. Got vampires, got werewolves, got a
Sure.
little bit of everything. Even
Okay,
even
so
had some dragons toward the end.
I'm all for that. Okay. So the Atomic Sea is epic science fiction fantasy.
Yeah, with some horror thrown in there.
There's some horror in there. That's like
All my favorite things all in one place.
go for it, but how?
Well, also it's got steampunk. Okay, so it's this kind of it's got a little some Lovecraftian elements. It has been compared to Jules Verne meets H.P. Lovecraft
Oh,
on acid,
on
and
us. All right, great.
it's got an epic scope to it, and it takes itself seriously. Jules Verne meets H.P. Lovecraft sounds a little bit goofy, but it takes itself seriously. It's not camp,
Mm-hmm.
and it is just a whirlwind of adventure and atmosphere, and the sea, 1,000 years before the novel takes place, has become strange. Lightning
Strange.
lightning shoots off of the sea. The sea boils and bubbles and crackles. If you eat anything from the sea, you become mutated or you die. If you become mutated, you can become a fish person or a lobster person or whatever. So you'll develop some aquatic elements if you eat unprocessed seafood from the atomic sea.
Or you die.
And so there is some mysterious thing going on with the sea.
Uh-huh.
Meanwhile, as the story takes place, there is a big world war happening. And our heroes are in one small country teetering on the brink of the sea, being driven, there's this evil empire named Octung, Octung,
Uh-huh.
Octung, like an
I
octopus.
yeah, I got it.
Yes, but also there's another element in there. So Octung, this evil empire, has been trying to conquer the world, and it has some connection with the sea, and it has very advanced technology.
Mm-hmm.
And our heroes are in this one small country called Ganesa. Our main character is Dr. Francis Avery, who is a doctor aboard a whaling ship
Oh.
on the sea.
Oh.
And there are submarines, Octungan submarines. Uh,
Octung.
Octungan, yeah, that's kind of a mouthful. Okay,
Octungian? I
people
yes.
from Octung,
Yes.
the yes, Octunginian, if you will.
Octunginian. That sounds
Right.
that's better.
I use the word Octungan, but anyway, so submarines are hunting them. They are out on a whaling ship because the hot lard, because remember, things that are touched by the atomic sea or in the atomic sea have strange properties.
Right.
So it is for the hot lard of these
Uh-huh.
whales. And
Uh-huh.
they need the hot lard to run the processors that defend Ganesa against the otherworldly attacks of Octung.
Got it.
So, aboard this ship, a mysterious woman is drawn from the sea. Beautiful, untouched by the sea, not contaminated, not diseased, not dying,
Uh-huh.
not a fish person.
Uh-huh.
And her name is Leanna, and she is on the run, and she has to be nursed back into health by our doctor, the main character.
Uh-huh.
And meanwhile, we learn there are spies in Ganesa that would kill Leanna, but only she holds the secret for defeating Octum.
Oh,
But
good.
she needs Avery's help to do it. And together they form a ragtag band and go on a crazy adventure through this very strange world, a world of fish people and crazy technology and gods and or weird weird beings. Let's say.
I like it.
No.
So, is there a thriving black market seafood trade in this country?
There is a thriving black market seafood trade, and there's above ground seafood trade, and there's below ground seafood trade. There's all sorts of crazy, because the mutants that have become mutated actually prefer the unprocessed seafood. But Genisha, since it lives on the shore of the sea, has processing facilities, and you can actually eat food without getting disease if you buy the processed seafood. But as the war has ground on, it's harder and harder to get processed seafood, and mutation is running rampant in the country. So there's a lot of elements and layers to the society, because historically in Genisha, if you were mutated, you were not there's a kind of a hierarchy. If you're a fish person, there's a bias.
Lower social strata.
Lower social status, and so that's an element to the story, but not anyway.
Because so obviously risk of death is not as bad as it could be, because now I'm tempted, except for the fact that vegetarianism is a thing.
Hey, well, some vegetarians eat fish.
Yeah, that's true. Every now and again. Okay, so then what about this horror novel that was fantasy, but now I'm you're moving genres.
I do that. I explore one genre or a blend of genres, and then I move on to something else.
Yes.
I put my spin on one genre, and then I try to do it to another genre.
Go for it.
So for my horror series, The Living Night, which begins with Vampire Nights, with a K, and it is about two vampires, Ruger and Danielle. The tagline is, "Can two vampires on the run save the world from the apocalypse?"
Only on Tuesdays.
That's right. Only on Tuesdays. And the novel takes place on one long Tuesday. It's like 24, but with vampires.
Yep, we're doomed.
Yeah, we're doomed. Yeah. And so there's vampires. They get embroiled in this big thing. It takes place in modern times in our world. But there is this shadowy war going on among the supernatural community. There's and Ruger and Danielle aren't entirely sure what's going on, and they have to piece that together as they go along. They become the target of some assassins that are of a very mysterious supernatural race, and a very powerful and deadly race. And so they have to go on the run. One of their friends is murdered, and they have, and that is connected to the war and the reasons for the war. So they have to try to solve their friend's murder while being on the run. And as it goes, they quickly get involved into higher stakes in the deeper world of the deeper conflict.
Sure.
And so that's kind of the setup for The Living Night.
I like it. Sounds fascinating, and you can also cause huge amounts of trouble with the end of the world type stuff.
Yeah, who wants the end of the world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Not my favorite place to be, but I haven't invented time travel yet, so we're still working on that. Yeah, oh well.
More veggies, right? If they would just, put... Well, I mean, these are vampires. Like, eat less blood, or drink less blood, or maybe drink the blood of vegetarian. Anyway, I don't know. I'm sure there's a solution.
There's got to be some sort of solution somewhere.
Yoga. I don't know.
No idea.
Less violence, more yoga.
That'll do it. Yeah, yoga will except all the blood rushes to your head and with a vampire.
Yeah, that'd be a problem. Yeah.
Anyways, so how many books have you actually written?
Oh God, a lot.
More than
let's say 25.
Okay. And have you published all of them?
Well, I'm an indie writer, so I have self-published all my own books. I used to be represented by a big-time literary agent, but I saw the Kindle Gold Rush happening, and I had to get in on that. I I asked his permission to publish some of the books that he was not interested in representing.
Yeah.
He said no, and so I deferred to that, and I was didn't publish any of them for years. But after being represented by him for 10 years, and he represents Brandon Sanderson, Charlene Harris of True Blood.
Yeah.
So big time guy.
Yeah.
He asked me to sit on these stories, and I said I would.
Okay.
But after 10 years, he wasn't able to get me published. And I said, this Kindle Gold Rush thing is happening. I've got to get in on this. I'll do it under a different name.
Yeah.
Jack Connor could be the name I was born with. It could not be. Who knows? So I did that, and he was very unhappy with that, and he dropped me as a client, even though he wasn't interested in those particular stories. So I said, to heck with it. I'm going to publish everything. And The Atomic Sea was a book that he was interested in, and he had been in the process of trying to sell it during when this was happening.
Sure.
So who knows if it could have ever gotten traditionally published. But
these days, it almost doesn't matter.
I'm making my living writing now. I wasn't making my living with him, being represented by him.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the indie world has grown so large that it almost doesn't matter unless it was a Big Five publisher, in which case it matters a little bit.
Yeah, no, well, Brandon Sanderson isn't doing too bad.
Yeah.
If Charlene Harris had the True Blood TV show.
Exactly.
Not too bad. So if I could have done that, that would have been great. But that ship has sailed, and oh well.
Well, guess what? Amazon and Netflix are doing well, and the Hulu people are also they're all doing their own stuff, their own shows and things. So indie writers out there,
I know indie writers that are making $50,000 a month. I'm not, but there are indie writers out there doing very well.
Okay, I need to learn their formulas.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll work on that.
Yeah. I'm going. Yeah.
Yeah. So, least favorite part of the writing/publishing process?
Editing. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that one a lot.
Does the V go there? Does the adjective? Do I take out all the adverbs? How many adverbs do I leave?
Well,
I like adverbs. I like the purple pen. What's wrong with a few adverbs here and there? Come on.
Speaking from a linguistics perspective, absolutely nothing.
And no adverbs?
Well, adverbs there's nothing wrong with adverbs. Yeah, however, speaking from I'm an average person reading books and writing books, apparently adverbs are a problem.
Yeah, well, that is the world we live in. There's this war on adverbs. Leave the adverbs alone. What did the adverbs do to you?
I am more than happy to die dramatically as opposed to just dying.
Exactly. And they embrace crushingly. No, that's a little bit much.
Mm-hmm.
But adverbs are good. George R.R. Martin is not afraid of the purple pen, and he's doing just fine.
Yeah,
If he would ever write a book, he would be doing just fine.
Well, he's probably still doing just fine. All of the hype with the waiting.
Oh, he's doing fine, but I do wish he would get on those books. Because I'm waiting for the books. I don't know how the series ends. I haven't finished the show because I stopped the show when they got ahead of the books.
I see. Well, having never done either, I couldn't tell you. But how does a television series
You're not a Game of the Thrones fan? You're not a Game of...
I started reading the books way back, when they first came out, and my life got so busy that I had to stop reading the books, and I never picked it up again.
Investment.
Yeah, it does take a bit. So it just never came up again.
And did the show never got your attention?
No, I was never very good at watching that sort of thing.
Well, what do you like to watch?
I am currently making my way through Foyle's War again.
What is Foyle's War?
Historical BBC drama, set, a small town policeman in the UK during World War II, and all of these subsequent interactions there, and it's quite good. It's more intellectual, I suppose, than special effects oriented.
So no werewolves, no dragons.
Oh no, I am fond of werewolves and dragons. It just rarely pops up on my feed because of the whole algorithm thing.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, once you like something, that's all you see is things
Yeah.
related to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the world we live in. Yeah, you get to
I
live in
can't-
your own bubble.
I can't figure out how to get rid of the algorithms and see everything else. So I have no idea what's going on out there in the world of not BBC drama.
Hey, I love the BBC. The BBC is great. They have
Sure.
some of my favorite shows. Doctor
Sure.
Who, a bunch of others.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
But I'm sure there's other things out there.
Yeah, there's a few. I've just gotten back into The Walking Dead.
Uh-huh.
I had been put off by The Walking Dead for a few years, but I decided to try to give it another shot. There was I don't know, you probably don't watch The Walking Dead, but
I know of it, so I know generally what's going on. I just haven't.
There's an infamous episode involving a bat, and after that episode, I kind of I fell out of it for a while, but I gave it another shot. I toughed my way through that season, and now it started to get better. Then they kill off another major character, and kind of an important character. And I've heard rumors that they're going to kill somebody else off. So I don't know if I'm going to stick with Walking Dead, but I'm giving it a shot.
Interesting. Well, this is how people drum up interest. They kill off the main characters.
Yeah, that seems to be how they do it. Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna love this show. Oh, by the way, all of your favorite characters are dead.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're gonna make you care about these great characters over 7 seasons, and now they're all dead.
Yeah, I mean,
to be fair, though. Yeah.
As a writer, I take great pleasure in the tears of my readers.
Yeah, well, you do have to kill your character sometimes.
I know it's necessary, and the reactions are quite amusing, but as a reader, or a watcher or whatever you call it, consumer. That's the word.
Consumer, that's right.
Yes, right. It does get rather depressing after a while.
Yes. But some TV shows can. Well, I don't want to give any Game of Thrones spoilers, but there are major character deaths in that show.
Do you know? I've heard that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it actually makes it a better show. And sometimes you build your show around certain characters, and if you kill them off after 7 seasons, that might actually be hurting the show. So I'm a little worried that's what's going to happen with Walking Dead, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, you have to see. Is there a story out there, television show, book, whatever, that you wish you had written? You could steal it from anybody.
Let's see. Well, I'm a big Song of Ice and Fire fan and Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Yeah, I do love that. It's probably my favorite thing currently being written. And I say being written.
Well,
maybe on one Tuesday a month.
Yeah. It would be interesting to get to the point where you don't actually have to write, and yet people still want your work.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
It's quite the phenomenon, and something that I'm unlikely to ever experience.
We'll get there. We'll hang in there.
Okay. So editing is your least favorite bit. You want to steal Game of Thrones. Best money you ever spent as an author. Or from your author money, either way.
Bookbub. Definitely Bookbub.
Bookbub, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I've got my 3rd Bookbub coming up. And I've had 2 before. One for The Living Knights. And one for, I think, The Atomic Sea. And it costs $300 for a Bookbub.
Sure.
And great return. And now for the upcoming book, I don't know if it's going to be as good of a return because it's a standalone book, and and it's a perma-free book. So I'm not going to make a whole lot of money, from that book. So I
Right.
would make the money from the sell through, but it's a standalone book. However, it does take place in the world of the Atomic Seed. So hopefully there will be some sell through. We will
Yeah.
see. We will
Yeah.
see. It'll be an experiment to see if a standalone book set in the same world can generate sales.
Yeah. Well, theoretically, the books that you have written market the book that you're putting out, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Theoretically.
So I'm very, very happy with the Bookbub. I've been wanting another Bookbub for a while, and finally it happened. And have you ever had a Bookbub?
I have done a little bit of research about it, but not a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. It costs a few $100s, depending on what genre you're targeting. But if you get selected for a Bookbub feature, it's always been worth it to me, 10 times more than you pay. So I highly recommend submitting to Bookbub to get promoted.
Very cool. And what about audiobooks? Do you venture that direction?
Yeah. I have done some audiobooks, and I don't make as much money on those, but I do make a little bit every month from those. And then it's definitely something to pursue. Maybe others would have better luck than me with audiobooks. But yeah.
I hear that's where the market is going.
It wouldn't surprise me.
But I'm also hearing other things about where the market is going.
Well, where do you hear the market is going? Maybe I'm going to get some...
you have to understand, I hang around a lot of people who deal with AI. So what I hear is things like, oh yeah, the AI people are writing books. Or today, while I was editing a video, I was interrupted to be pointed to a website where you enter some text and it finishes or fills in a phrase. So I entered in, it was a dark and stormy night, and it came up with a poem about war and death, and it was a bit terrifying, but actually grammatically correct, which is worrying.
Was it understandable? I mean, the plot?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
I know.
That's frightening.
It wasn't like super high quality, but it was definitely understandable, grammatically correct, and a bit worrying.
That is terrifying.
However, I also know that AI is nothing more than advanced pattern recognition, and book writing doesn't tend to follow patterns all that often.
That's true. I mean, how can you have an inspired novel if it's just pattern recognition? You might be able to have some tropey genre thing that's understandable and readable, but it's not gonna have any burst of creativity or inspiration.
Right.
But people like the novels. I've read some AI stuff that was intriguing, but it's like the equivalent of a David Lynch movie. It's like these little bits and pieces that kind of make sense, and you put them together, and it doesn't make sense really, but it's interesting and creepy. It's got these little nuggets that are cool and weird, and you put them together, and it's really like watching it's like watching David Lynch. But I read this AI constructed Silmarillion story. I'm a big Tolkien fan. Huge fan of the Silmarillion and Lord of the Rings, and so they had got this AI to study the Silmarillion and sped out a chapter of the Silmarillion. Totally incomprehensible. Just imagine high Tolkien speak, all twisted up and mangled together.
Oh no!
And, it was a nightmare. Yeah,
I think that should just be a rule. You don't mess with Tolkien.
Yeah, you don't mess with Tolkien. That's right.
Oh,
especially your computer.
Well, the thing about AI is that it is built on what you feed it. So if you feed it information that is not complete or that is very minimal, you're not going to get a great result. So most of the, like the self-driving cars, they're fed millions and millions and millions of hours of video, and they still can't differentiate between, is this a ball or a panda? We're not sure.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
it
kind of
said
want the self-driving
candidate.
cars to have as much data as possible. Yeah, take your
So,
time.
so for the writing thing, I mean, it's probably easier to feed an AI machine text than it is otherwise, but I wouldn't trust it all that much.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be a little while, I think, before I'm too worried about that. But you're right. I think that is going to be a thing. We
Yeah.
are, we as human writers are going to have to compete against AI writers at a certain point. At a certain point. Hey, but that's actually, maybe it'll be a help creativity. We won't have so much samey stuff. We will have actual inducement to be as creative as possible.
Interesting. So then we
Instead
just
of
have to
being,
convince the readers.
right now, I would say we have we're being encouraged to write as tropey as possible.
Yes,
Uh,
because the
and
readers read it.
because the readers read it, and because Amazon will push it. If you write something different, like the Atomic Sea,
Hmm.
it has been harder to gain an audience with that.
Yeah.
I have, thankfully, but I mean, not as much as it could be if it was just dragons and princes.
Right.
And I've written dragons and princes before, and I like the Tolkienese,
Sure.
the epic fantasy, but I also like writing different things.
Yes.
And it would be nice if Amazon would the algorithms would engage with that as much as they do with the other stuff. But like we were talking earlier, if you watch something on Netflix or Amazon,
Yep.
they're going to recommend if you don't have those tropes for
Yeah.
them to recommend,
Yep.
they're not going to, how can they recommend it? So,
Well,
you
then
know,
the question is, how do we find books outside of Amazon
or outside the genre, because
or outside the
those,
genre even? Yeah.
yeah, because there are alternative fantasies and things out there
What?
that are just that are just hard to find because they're not recommended to us.
Yeah. No, it's quite frustrating. And
Yeah.
so, how do you overcome that besides Bookbub?
Just newsletters, lots of advertising. I do Facebook advertising, I do
Oh.
Amazon advertising,
Uh-huh.
BookBub advertising. Promotions. Free days promotions.
Yeah.
You just have to get the word out as any way you can.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a challenge. It can be a
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah.
That is the eternal challenge.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for the crazy people trying to get into this industry, are there any traps that you would suggest they avoid?
There's a lot of traps. That's, I don't know. I mean, anything can be a trap. I mean, first of all, you need editing. You need a professionally edited manuscript.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to pay $700 or whatever to get there? If if you don't have a novel that's competitive,
Mm.
uh, I mean, I hate to say that, but if you don't and you spend $700 that you could have been spending elsewhere,
Yeah.
should you spend your rent money on editing? That's a tough. So even though you need editing,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it can be, that could be a bad thing. So maybe just go with proofreading, a couple $100 for proofreading instead.
Mm-hmm.
Bookbub could be, a trap. Like doing this standalone book.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to actually make money? I hope it will. I think it will. Will it? We'll see. Uh, but it could be a great thing. So in everything is different from person to person.
Yeah.
What works for me may not work for you. What works for you may not work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get advice from as many people as possible. And what's working for that person might work for you. You should give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it doesn't, try the next thing. It's just experimentation. It really is.
Experimentation and research. Ooh.
Yeah, be fun, right?
I just want the magic solution that tells me how to market my book.
Me too. And I want it to stay stable. Instead of what works for me works for a while, and then it
Yeah.
stops working, and then I have to find something else, and
Yep.
then that works for a while,
Yep.
and then you're spending money on the thing that works for a while, and when it stops working, you're still spending money on it.
Yep.
So
And
it
somewhere in
takes a
there,
while for you to learn that that's not actually working anymore.
yes, and somewhere in there, we actually have to write the book.
And so, yeah, and you have to actually write, and you have to stay inspired while dealing with the headache of marketing and the BS of all research and learning.
And how do you manage that? Lots of tea?
lots of tea, lots of coffee, taking walks, getting outside of this and doing something else for a while. Reading, I think reading is very important.
Oh, yes.
And keep your mind as active as possible and read stuff that you like that's going to inspire you.
Yeah.
And I think that's very key. And, for a while I was reading stuff that was selling, and I was trying to, this is what's selling, this is what I should be reading so I can absorb that. But it was really hurting my creativity, and I wasn't writing as well, and I wasn't writing as much because I just wasn't into it. That's my advice. Writers
read and readers may write, and somewhere in there, we're working on it.
Yeah, we're working on it. Yeah.
We're working on it. Yeah, good advice. Is there anything else you want to add, writing related or not?
Read, write, submit. experiment. Nothing new, but that's what you got to do.
Yep. All right, I'm going to make a request. Sneak back there and show me your Atomic Sea cover, because I've been staring at it and it looks quite interesting.
All right.
Ooh. Oh, I like the suit. That's fantastic.
Yeah, well, when you're on the Atomic Sea, the ships are arranged like submarines. There's the interior compartments that are isolated from the sea. But when you go outside, because it is the Atomic Sea, you've got to wear an environment suit that looks like an old-fashioned diving suit.
Yeah.
And that protects you from the Atomic Sea, from the fumes and the extra-dimensional radiation. It's not traditional radiation, but it's extra-dimensional radiation of the Atomic Sea. And of course, we got the
flying
giant flying squids that drift across the Atomic Sea.
Yeah.
And the sailors will take pot shots at them. But beware, because when you're taking pot shots at a giant squid,
it will fight back?
It might fight back.
Great. And squid ink, does it have some sort of special power? Will it write my...
Squid ink's got all sorts of properties. Oh, yeah. And there's all sorts of crazy compounds in the world of the Atomic Sea. And you can make tattoos out of certain things, and they'll have certain properties. And it's been a really fun world to explore. I have had a great time writing the Atomic Sea books and their spin-offs.
Yes, it sounds fantastically fun.
There's Lovecraftian gods and fish people and Frankenstein technology, steampunky.
Yes. Are there sea dragons?
Well, there are giant monsters in and around the sea. No traditional dragons, but definitely dragon-ish.
Dragon-ish. Good enough.
I mean, you imagine giant eels and all sorts of in the opening sea. There's the mutated whales, which they have been driven mad by the sea. They're covered in boils and cancerous growths and blind eyes and tendrils, and they will kill people and eat them, and they're just great, horrific leviathans. And that's what our whaling crew has to hunt in order to harvest the hot lard.
They're doomed.
So we don't have to feel bad about killing those whales. Those are the bad whales.
No, that's they're doomed.
They're doomed. They're doomed. And so they got all these awful sea monsters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as long as there are no giant shrimp, because honestly, their eyes are really creepy, I think I'd be okay.
In one of the spin-offs, I do have some evil shrimp beings. That's the Atomic Underworld. Stay away from don't read the Atomic Underworld if you don't like.
Well, I mean, if they get their comeuppance,
and they also
meet the frying pan.
They also squirt goo out of their tentacles that can melt you.
Uh-huh.
and they worship evil
That's a little
beings
bit
of the sea.
disturbing.
Yeah, yeah. They're called the gazay.
The gazay.
The gazay. And
Uh-huh.
they're giant shrimp beings.
Giant shrimp beings.
The squirt acidic goo.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. I will start carrying around my phaser. Thanks. Well, it has been absolutely fantastic talking with you. I learned things that I don't need to know about giant shrimp because that's slightly terrifying. But it's been great talking with you.
It's been great talking with you too. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for having me.